My name is Maddie Berning, and my speech is on how to change the strings on a guitar. So the first time that I changed the strings on my guitar, I was 10 years old, and I had no idea what I was doing. I thought that I could just figure it out and do it myself because how hard could it be to take the strings off of a guitar? Quickly, I learned that it is not that easy. I was trying to take them off, and they snapped my hands and left scars and marks and cuts for weeks. So I had to take my guitar to a store, and they had to properly change them and fix everything for me. But it was at that point that I made the decision. I was like, I need to learn how to change the strings on my guitar. Because of this, I learned to learn things instead of trying without any prior knowledge. So the first thing we'll talk about is the parts of the guitar. I used this key from Liberty Park Music's website. It has a very good illustration and broke down every part of the instrument. So here we have an acoustic guitar, and we will go through not everything, but the main parts that will be important for this speech. So first we have the head. This is where the strings are attached and tightened with the pegs on the top. It's the tip of the guitar. It's typically where you would read the type of guitar that you're playing. Next are the pegs, and the pegs are where you would turn them in order to change the tune for each string. So tightening them, loosening them according to however you are tuning your guitar. The neck is the longest part of the guitar. This is where you would play the chords with your non-dominant hand. So when every fret has different chords and you go up and down for whichever one you're playing. The body is the main part of the guitar. This is where the sound comes from, specifically for an acoustic guitar. And this is also where you would strum, where you would pluck. That's all with your dominant hand. So the body. And lastly, the bridge. The bridge is where the strings are planted. So this is important for what we're going to talk about later on, but it's where they get put in, so they stay there and then connects to the top of where the neck is. So now that we know the parts of the guitar, let's take a look at the strings that are placed on it. So the guitar has lots of different types of strings, but Gear Rank categorizes three main types. There's steel and nickel, brass and bronze, and nylon. All these different types of strings, it's all a personal preference to what kind of sound you're trying to make, what level of difficulty you are, and just the overall sound and the type of music you want to play. So there's also different gauges for strings, and that is just how thick the string is. The thicker the string, the louder it will play, and then the thinner the string, the quieter it is. So the thickest gauge ranges from 0.12 to 0.11 to 0.12, and the thinnest is 0.9. Medium gauge is around 0.10, 0.5. And the type of string also can depict your difficulty level. So a thicker string, a thicker gauge is a bit harder to play, harder to pluck, harder to hold a chord. So all about personal preference and the level of difficulty you are on. So like I said, there's many different types of guitar strings, but those are the main ones. They create different sounds, volumes, and have difficulty levels. So guitarlessons.com breaks it down in a really nice way, each string. And each string has a name. So it's E, A, D, G, B, E. And the strings coordinate to the peg that are the pegs at the neck of the guitar, all the way down the neck to the bridge, and that's where they connect. And they have coordinating spots, and it's really important to note this for when we tune the guitar later on. So now that we can figure out what type of strings we need, let's get into how we can change them on the guitar. So once you have the right strings, the first thing you want to do to start off is taking the old strings off. So the first thing is you start, if we look at the bottom photo in this slide, you want to start at the bridge. And the bridge has 6 different pegs that hold the strings in. And so you would take off the peg and the string would come out, as you can see he's doing in this image. And then you would follow it up the neck all the way to the tip of the guitar. And you would slowly unwind the pegs to the left, loosening it until it comes all the way off. And this you would repeat 5 more times for each string until all of the strings are off. So now that you have done that, you can move on to putting the new strings in. So to put the new strings in, you start at the bridges again this time, and you put the string in without the peg, and it clicks in, and you'll hear a click for it. And then you follow it up all the way to the neck, to the top, and you would put it in to the pegs. And this top photo is what shows that. So you would put it in, and you would slowly twist to the right until it clicks in, and it would be in for good, and then you would move on to the next string. And so once all 6 strings are in, they're going to be a bit loose. They'll be set, but still loose. You can move on to the final step. And that final step is tuning your guitar so that you can play it. So there are 2 different types, or there's lots of different types of tuning, but I put 2 in for this example. You could have a physical tuner that is on the outside of your guitar and just clips on. And that is the photo on the left. And your other option, which is what I prefer, is an app. There's lots of different ones. And so they're essentially the same thing. And you would pick a string, and you would start by plucking it alone. And then the gauge would move either to the left or the right if the chord needs to be higher or lower. And then you would twist accordingly, and you would twist to the left or to the right if you're going higher to lower until it is the proper tune. And if you look at the photo on the right, the green check indicates that it is perfect and in tune. So that's when you would move on to the next one. So like I said, this is where it's important to notice where the strings are attached to the pegs, because it's not in a typical manner that you would expect. So knowing the chord names, like I said, E, A, D, G, B, E, and where their pegs are is super important in tuning your guitar. So now that your strings are all tightened, you can clip the excess string that is hanging at the neck, and then you're all set to go. And that is how you tune a guitar. So I hope you take this information to learn something new, maybe pick up a new instrument this summer. But if not, at least you now know the basic parts of guitar and general knowledge on how to tune the strings.